Hello parents. I'm not going to greet your children because this week's children's message is for you. For parents and grandparents and guardians, anyone who finds themselves at home with children and are now their new teachers for everything, not just the usual things. I want to show you a message that you can use with your children and demonstrate for you a way that you can share your faith. And I'm hoping that this will be an encouragement to you and not give you another burden, one more thing that you have to do. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, God talks about how we teach our children. And he says that we should teach the faith to our children as we walk along the way, and as we sit, and as we rise, and as we lie down for bed at the end of the day. And for me, that message is that we share the faith in everything that we do. In every little part of our day, that it doesn't have to be a fancy lesson with a big object lesson or a big video or something like that, that it's just the natural everyday things that we do. So I'm going to just show you an activity that you can do with your children at Easter time. Doesn't have to be on Easter, can be sometime after, that can kind of take advantage of their natural curiosity. And so this is basically making what we call a resurrection roll. And I'm not going to show you how to do it because number one, it's all over the internet. And number two, this morning when I made these, I discovered that it's not quite possible for me to do this without licking my fingers, and I just don't want you to see that right now. But basically, you're going to take a marshmallow, nice big marshmallow, and you're going to dip it in melted butter, and then roll it around in a cinnamon sugar mixture, and then you're going to wrap it up in one of those triangles from crescent rolls. And then you go ahead and bake them. And what happens is, as you can see here, is that the marshmallow melts. And so that's a surprise. If you don't tell your children ahead of time and you just make them and you cut them open, then you can be surprised that the marshmallow is missing. What's good about that is surprise is an emotion that God has given us. We believe that children are even born with the ability to feel surprise because they show it so early in their life that there's not time for them to have learned it. But surprise is an emotion that draws us towards something. It gives us a moment of delight, usually, and it makes us curious, doesn't it? So I like surprise lessons, and I like to take advantage of surprise and do some teaching because I know it makes the brain ready to learn. So you can talk about the surprise of the marshmallow being gone. Now sometimes when people do lessons like this with children, they make it into an analogy, and that's a pretty complicated connection, really. Analogies are probably a little bit above the head of most young children. They're just starting to learn how to switch back and forth from things that are real and things that are symbolic. I don't think you have to make a big analogy out of it, and you probably shouldn't, because the last thing we want to do is leave kids with the impression that Jesus melted in the tomb, right? So we don't have to make that analogy, but what I liked to do when I taught kindergarten was to take advantage of surprise by saying, that reminds me of. So that was the signal that I'm not talking about the rolls and the marshmallows anymore. Now I'm going to talk to you about something else. That reminds me of, for instance, when the women and the disciples went to the tomb on Easter morning and they were surprised to find that Jesus was not there. He was gone. The tomb was empty. And if you're wanting to connect that to the Bible story, then I would recommend the version from Luke because it really highlights the surprise. So here are a couple verses that say, this is what the angel said, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen." So you can make that connection again about the surprise. And this is not something that you have to do all in one big lesson, because children don't tend to learn that way. It can be something where you can make the rolls together and then later discover the surprise and make a quick connection to the tomb. And then later at family devotion, you can say, do you remember when we opened up the rolls? And pull that memory forward in their heads again so that you can connect some more learning to it. The empty tomb is what's so very important about this story of Easter, isn't it? We don't come to the tomb and find that Jesus is there. If that were the case, then we would know that Jesus was just a man. But Jesus was God, and he sacrificed for us. That's such a huge story. And children can learn it piece by piece from being with you and hearing you talk about it. When you teach the word to your children by walking along the way, by sitting, by lying down and rising up, it's just looking for those moments when you can mention God, when you connect things in the world to your faith, stopping to pray when you're worried, taking the time to apologize and forgiving each other when you've been through a tense moment. And I'm guessing there's been a few tense moments. Paul and I have had some tense moments, and it's just the two of us. We can separate ourselves in the house. So even those things that happen that we don't like are opportunities to show how God is helping us. And it's especially good to show ways that God is keeping us safe. So if you're going to be wearing a mask when you go out, you don't have to say it, well, we have to do this to stay safe. You can say, this is one way that God is helping us to stay safe. And you can point out other fun things that you've been able to do, extra walks you've been able to take, playing in the yard, playing games, learning together, and point out that God can bring good things out of every tough situation. I know that you have many burdens on you right now, and my heart is with you, and I'm praying for you, and I'm so very proud of you. God bless you as you share your life and your love and your faith with your children.